Purple Line is a community podcast bringing you in-depth conversations with diverse leaders in the public and private sectors. Whether you're a student looking to gather advice or a professional tuning in for valuable resources, our dynamic programming provides inspiration and insights for all ages and backgrounds. I'm Marianne Gomez-Horta, your host of the Purple Line podcast and the CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. Welcome. Laura Maristany, thank you so much for joining us on the CHLI Purple Line podcast. Special honor for us. We've been able to work together for quite a while, but you have always been such a huge supporter and advocate of interns and young professionals. Maybe that's because you also have worked with interns for a long time. So thank you. Just wanted to start by saying thank you and very much appreciate what you do for young Latinos and aspiring Latinos.
Excited to be here. And as a former paid intern myself,
Yes.
know how important it is to support.
Especially paid interns. We're
Paid interns.
Yes, we're all trying to get paid interns very much. So before I get into some of the questions here, I just want to share for the audience that you are the founder and CEO of Katch Skills. When did you start Katch Skills? How long ago was that?
3 years ago, almost.
3 years
but
ago?
had the
Okay.
idea about 6 years ago.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to that. Again, we have a variety of audience members. Our fine-tuned focus is really on young professionals and making sure that we provide them with some insights, advice, shared journeys, because nobody's journeys is ever the same, and sometimes where we thought we were going to go is not exactly where we've ended up. So, if you could please share with the audience to start, Laura, is a little bit of your journey before coming to Washington and before being a tech innovator. Share with us a little bit about your history and your family.
Absolutely. I like to say that I'm Puerto Rican at life and Cuban at heart.
Okay.
So both of my grandparents were Cuban. So they ended up in Puerto Rico in the early 60s. I think most of us are familiar with what happened during that time in Cuba. And so my parents, while they were born in Cuba, my mom actually in Venezuela, but they met at a Cuban country club when they were older. Yes,
my gosh,
at Casa
awesome.
Cuba in Puerto Rico. And I was born and raised on the island. I actually stayed in Puerto Rico throughout college. And it was during that time that my mom found out that there was a paid internship opportunity that the government of Puerto Rico would sponsor a number of students from Puerto Rican institutions to come to DC. Okay. I applied. And at that time, Jennifer Gonzalez Colon was in the state legislature.
Oh, that's her. This is the current governor.
This is the current governor of Puerto Rico. And she was the one that interviewed me. It was kind of like a hearing room in the state legislature. So I'm 20 years old. I don't know what I'm doing. And so that was, I guess, my first experience.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I got chosen. Interestingly, I actually wanted, when I got the internship, we get placed in different offices, like the CHLI fellows. I wanted to be with Ileana Ross-Lehtinen.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
bad.
Yes.
And my mom was like, you have to be with La Cubana. And the thing was that the congressman from Puerto Rico gets first dibs. And
okay, so explain, I'm familiar with this internship program, but explain what this internship program is.
The Córdoba Fernández program is paid for by the Puerto Rican legislature. So the Puerto Rican legislature actually sets money aside to cover the cost of about 20 students to come to DC and be able to have experiences on Capitol Hill. And that, obviously, a lot of us end up in congressional offices. But because it's the Puerto Rican legislature, the congressman from Puerto Rico gets the first batch of interns, and he or she get to decide the first hire, and so his office picked me.
That's because you interviewed so well, Laura. You were like the top of the pick, right?
Actually, going to a little bit of it, I always say it was thanks to the high school I went to. So I got to go to an excellent high school because my mom was the principal.
Okay.
And when they saw that on my resume, I guess that was my privilege at the time, because they could tell that I had an excellent education coming in. And so that's how I ended up on Capitol Hill. When I did my internship, I finished. It was still fall. I had to go back to finish my fourth year.
Right.
doing political science, and the congressman's office called and said, hey, we are going to hire a staff assistant, but we're going to wait for you to graduate, and
Wow.
that be you. And that's how I ended up in DC.
That's awesome. So let me back up a little bit to your mom. So is your mom in education? Is she in public administration? It sounds like we have to thank your mother here for a sec.
My mom has been teaching for, I don't know, 50 years. And she was actually my high school principal.
Wow.
And before that,
I don't know if that was fun or not. I don't know if we should ask you about that.
Well, when they instituted detention, I was the first one to get it. So let's start there.
Okay.
And then my dad is in agriculture, so he is actually an agronomer on the island as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you get a phone call from the Puerto Rico resident commissioner that they're going to wait for you. Mm-hmm. And so you graduate, and then you move back, and it's not a paid internship anymore. This is a job.
This is a job.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
A little tiny bit better paid than most staff assistants.
Okay.
At the time,
that's
so I
good.
can't complain about that.
All right.
But because, it's hard.
It is hard. No matter, if you're starting off in DC, it's always hard.
Yes. My mom and my aunt, my aunt is sort of like my other mom, and they all scrambled together and helped me, get settled and helped me pay for furniture, although I did not have a dining table for like a year, like a solid year.
A real dining table.
None at all.
None at all. Okay. All right. We've all had that makeshift family friend furniture for a while.
Yes.
Trying to get your first set of anything is just so exciting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm curious about when you were in Puerto Rico and you're studying political science. At that time, what did you think you wanted to do? What were you focused on your career was going to look like?
I wasn't.
No?
I totally did not know. I just sort of followed where my parents told me to go at the time. So they said, study political science because that's the track to go to law school.
Okay.
And that's what I did. And I got good grades because I always, worked hard. And then it was interesting because a lot of the political science students, as you can imagine, are very political. And I was not.
And if you're Cuban and Puerto Rican, there's like an extra little on that. Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't consider myself a political person.
Okay.
And we could talk about that some more, but I wasn't. I wasn't in debate club. I don't like debating. I didn't really care about the cultural politics and, being involved in student council and things like that. Which was really funny because after I did my internship at the time, the congressman I worked for was a rock star, and he came to visit campus. And I remember the student council, the deans, everybody was there, all excited to see what was going to be the future governor of Puerto Rico. And he gets out of the car, hugs me. When they give him his award, he gives it to me to hold, and all of a sudden, all the deans are like, "Who is this person?"
What? Who is that?
I was just floating in my classes for most of the. So
I love it.
They're like, "Why is he talking to her?" But yeah, I was following that, and it wasn't until I got to DC and later on, I was grateful for that experience because it helped me sort of understand the next phase, which at that point, then I went into my master's degree with a lot more knowledge about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it.
So you came here, and then how long were you working on the Hill? And then you went back to get your master's. Were you still working on the Hill when you did that?
Yes,
Okay.
I was already. I had been on the Hill for about 2 years.
Okay.
And I started my master's degree in international commerce and policy
Okay.
at George Mason University. So I would go to work all day, and then at night I'd get on the metro and I'd get myself to Arlington and go to school. Mm-hmm. And at the time, my husband too, which is another thread, but he had moved. We had gotten married. He's Italian. So he was doing his bachelor's degree at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And also at night. And so, I think that to me, that period in time really showed me like we're not afraid of doing hard and difficult things.
Right.
We can do them.
Yeah.
If you don't, there's a lot of excuses to not do it. But yeah, it's hard, but you can.
Yeah, and it also has that grit that kind of sounds like you've had at a very young age as well. Being able to just jump in, following what your parents were suggesting, but you added your mix to it, your flavor to it, and you didn't go to law school though, right? Because that was what Laura was supposed to do was go to law school. So how come you didn't go to law school?
Because I really loved being on the Hill, and I really got to understand I don't need to necessarily be a lawyer to do
right.
that. I think being a lawyer is a path, of course. But honestly, to work on the Hill, you need to do everything. You need to understand everything, every issue.
And depending on the office, you also need to make cafecito for a former
And
congressman,
coffee.
for Ileana Ross.
Claro,
that was
of course.
Yes, that's
Important
also
skills.
important part.
Yes.
So kind of fast forward from working on the Hill. Like, remind me, how many years total were you on the Hill now?
5. Well, I was on the Hill a total of 5, but
Okay.
yeah.
So there are some Hill staffers who decide they're going to stay for a certain length of time. Maybe they go to a committee or they move up. And then there's a whole nother group that leave to go work for the private sector in a lobbying firm, in a shop in Washington. So to share with us, where did you go and why?
And trick question. let me massage this one. Cut
Okay.
that. So I was with the congressman. He won. He became the governor of Puerto Rico, and he asked me if I wanted to go to his governor's office,
Yeah, sure.
and I said no. I wanted to, I guess at the time, be mainstream, and so I wanted to stay on the Hill.
Okay.
His successor. So my first boss was a Republican.
Okay.
And when in Puerto Rico, people don't really see themselves as Republican or Democrats. So his successor was actually from his party on the island, but here he was a Democrat. And so I stayed with him. I was his first hire.
Okay.
I was with him all through the beginning as a freshman, helping navigate,
Right.
The office was being set up. And then little by little, I just started feeling like that wasn't the right fit at the time.
Okay.
And so I ended up, for different reasons, and I think this one really important for the students that are listening. You never know that small thing that you're going to do that will land you that next job.
Yeah. We talk about that all the time.
So I had applied
know.
for a job at HACU, the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities. And I got it almost like the same week that I had applied for it. And I found out it was because one time they needed something from the congressman's office. And I put together a letter for them in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
And they never forgot that.
They remembered that.
For me, it was just another letter.
Yeah.
I was doing education and workforce. And that was that. Like, they remembered that.
Wow.
And so I ended up becoming their executive director for legislative affairs, and I was there for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, but I think that's where we kind of crossed paths, or
Yes.
when you were at HACU, from an education standpoint too. I mean, we obviously work with universities and we have the internship program, so we don't have a policy arm per se. So we're always looking for other organizations like HACU to be able to partner in some of those issues. So it's interesting that there's a thread too of like education. Has that always been an interest, or has it kind of evolved and it's something that you're just more interested in, and education, workforce development, and helping young professionals and interns?
I've done a lot of issues. So like many of us on Capitol Hill, housing, science and technology, faith-based initiatives, you name it. I actually ran the entire congressional art competition also.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
That's hilarious.
very proud of that. Other story, but I think we become generalists. We're really good at just understanding and learning issues. Ed and workforce was just, I think, like one of the pieces that I ended up having to work on because the congressman sat on that committee. So
Yeah.
I did quite a bit of work. But funny enough, and this will be funny enough later in the podcast, is that I hated workforce issues.
Oh, really?
I hated it.
Why?
I don't know. But it was like every time we had to do a committee hearing or something on labor issues, I was like, I don't want to do workforce. Department of Labor. And little by little, as I went through my career and we started kind of crafting out what I wanted to do, it became more and more apparent that that actually was the place to make the most different, the most of a difference. And so
and the impact that you were looking for. The other piece, like as you mentioned, everybody has a different trajectory, and I mentioned earlier on different paths. Always find it interesting to learn from our guests. Was there like an aha moment in terms of taking you to now kind of what you're doing now? So, as the founder of a technology company based in the Washington, D.C. area, this is not Silicon Valley. What was that aha moment for you where you thought, wait a minute, this is what I need to be doing in creating Katch Skills?
I saw others try to do it. Others that were not even a third as smart or as qualified as I thought I was, like honestly. And I got to experience that firsthand. And once I saw, wait a minute, this is how that world sort of works.
Right.
I had a difficult situation because I ended up at a technology company. The CEOs hired me. They said, we don't know what you do, but we need you here. It was the dream. It was the dream job. They were incredibly supportive. It was a company that was building technology economies in underestimated cities. They were bringing tech to not Silicon Valley. And I got to be a part of that. And in the middle of the night on Memorial Day in 2023, we all got a message, all 900 of us, hey, we're furloughing 100% of the staff and your checks are going to bounce.
Wow.
And this is, imagine, the best place to work, the smartest, kindest, most committed people you can imagine. The CEOs had been lying about the finances of the company. They're both in jail. And at that moment, to me, it was like, you know what? If I could go and try to work for somebody else, or I could go and try to build what I think is a better solution. And so having seen how the world, outside of DC was functioning, I was like, I think I can do it. And so I had this idea back when I was at Democracy Fund, where I was working on really difficult things. I mean, my strategy at Democracy Fund was focused on bridging divides in America.
Yeah.
And it was at that time that I had thought, I see all of this division across the country. I see all of this anxiety that communities have with technology, with how their economies are changing. And to me, the answer to it is if only we had more meaningful work. Because if we're spending most of our time at work, right? But then we don't find meaning in it, and we don't find community in it, and for many reasons. And so that's where I started thinking about Katch.
Part of it too is that, as you mentioned, right, there's a lot going on in terms of technology innovation. We've both been in conversations about the digital divide, broadband. I grew up in a farm worker camp, so I'm always advocating for the rural communities and how a lot of times we're kind of like, oh, there's a community, we're going to go around the rural community, we're going to go do something else because we don't understand it, we don't know it. Yeah. It's too far to get to. We're just going to save some time, right? And take different shortcuts. But what ends up happening is that our communities, our collective Latino communities, our future leaders, they get lost or skipped in those kinds of processes and those opportunities. So it's just really interesting, how you kind of have been able to navigate all of that. So, one of the things that we really liked about Katch Skills when you originally had shared that with me was just the idea of being able to capture, whether you're a college student or not, being able to capture everything, which I thought was kind of interesting how you said you didn't like all the other labor stuff and workforce, and God had his own plan because now you're mixing this all together. So so share with the audience, what does Katch Skills do, and long term, what do you want the platform to do?
Absolutely. To me, the answer to all of it is we don't know how to value humans. Like, we don't know how to value all of the experiences and, importantly, all of the ways in which we are learning.
Right.
So you asked before, DC, the DC ecosystem doesn't understand tech. Like, you don't look like Silicon
Right.
Valley, all of those things. And if you went into my LinkedIn, you would not think that I am qualified to build a tech company, because that is not what the traditional resume that we're used to looking at
Right.
and interpreting is going to tell you. But the fact is that what you don't see about me is that I have spent the last 15 years sitting in rooms like your conferences, like briefings on technology issues, with tech CEOs, with engineers. We cannot capture that because all you're looking at is what I did in college.
Right. Oh, and then the other is when we tell the interns to put information in the resume about what they did, it's not that easy to translate onto a resume. And unless you're going to stay in the Washington, D.C. area, not everybody outside this area understands that resume either.
Right. Correct. And so we want to change that. We want to be able to build a tool, which we have, that is able to translate everything we're doing, from listening to this podcast to reading a book to attending a conference. It all counts. And it all leads to you as an individual getting that meaningful job, that meaningful career boost. And so to me, that's what Katch is trying to do. We're already achieving it. We're grateful to have the CHLI Global Fellows
Obviously,
as a part of our cohorts, leveraging as a tool. But more, as we're kind of thinking about the future and the future of work, for us, the vision is in everything. So everyone, everywhere is able to engage with a tool that is able to tell them exactly how they're growing, and it's able to keep up with who they are as they change, as they transition, as they grow. So my vision is that in the future, every time you watch a YouTube video where you're learning something, there's a QR code and you scan it and you get your Katch Skills. You go to a conference, it's there. You finish, listening to an Audible, it's there. And it's helping you to tell that story of who you are and what you bring to the table in a much clearer way. Importantly for businesses, look, we're spending all this money. Companies are spending over $50 billion a year in training programs for their teams, and still over 50% say that they're mishiring, that they're not able to build good teams. So think about it. How long does it take you to hire someone, get them on board?
Right. And then the turnover as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To then lose them because, you know what? That person may have been really, really good, but you put them on the wrong team because you don't understand the actual capabilities that they bring, what they enjoy doing.
Right.
All of that is important.
Yeah. No, it is important. And it's also, we've talked about this before with the interns, is that part of the internship experience in Washington is to learn two things: what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
A lot of times we put a lot of emphasis on following your passion, your purpose, but along the way, you also need to kind of learn what you don't like, or you're not as good in it as you thought, and to give space for a new area or something new that you hadn't thought about before. But it's not until we're in those experiences that we even give it some thought, right? So, launching this, I'm curious, because you're like the tech, non-tech, right? So how have you been accepted or, from the technology community? What's that been like as a journey?
I think that it's not so much the technology community. Interestingly, is the community I already have. So I have very strong networks across the country. They still are having a hard time in seeing me in that light.
Okay.
And so it's interesting how that works. And then funny enough, right, like those are the spaces that want to see more Hispanics in tech and things like that, but it's still because they don't understand skills first approaches, right?
Right.
How I have changed, why is it that I can do what I'm doing? So, but I'm actually really proud. I mean, from one good example is I did Techstars.
Okay.
Which globally, there are two primary accelerators in the tech space that are the most prestigious. It's Y Combinator and Techstars. And I did Techstars.
That's awesome.
Which is a really big deal. But in DC, I usually tell folks, like, Oh, I did text her. I was like, what is that? So,
So and that has its own network and its resources
It's a
and the
whole other
alumni
world.
as well. So you have a
Yes.
different community to
Correct.
draw from and contribute to.
Yep. And I think going back to, folks that are just starting out, that the ability to transition, the ability to be and network in different spaces is it's the skill you should be focusing on. Because honestly, like, I can show up in any of those spaces and make new friends and build mentors and try to expand. I'm focusing on that right now on the tech side. But I
Okay.
spent many years practicing and honing that ability here in DC.
Yeah. So I want to shift a little bit the next question to your experience of being involved in different spaces. So at CHLI, as you know, our vision statement is advancing the Hispanic community's diversity of thought. When I say diversity of thought, what does that mean for you? What does that sound like to you?
The most important capability that we need to build in rooms, whether it's a boardroom or a hearing room in DC, that is the most important item that we need to be looking at. Earlier in the conversation, I talked about how I wasn't a political being, I was a
Right.
policy being. And as a policy being, I care about solutions. I care about negotiating because at the end of the day, I don't have all the answers. If I need to be thinking about problems like how do I fix education in America,
Right.
or how do I bridge divides, I'm
Those
definitely
are like 2, 3, 4 other conversations. still.
imagine
Right.
like
Yes,
you're
exactly.
telling one person or one Congress or those are the things that we're doing. We're actually asking individuals to make decisions for all of us
Right.
on those really complicated things. And so if there isn't diversity of thought in that room, that solution, you better believe, is not going to be able to deliver anything of substance. And so that's why when we talk about the importance of communicating across the aisle, the importance of
Right.
bridging divides, the tools and the skills to be able to navigate difference. Because difference is not only red or blue. Difference is difference.
It's difference.
Whether I'm red or I'm blue, if I'm waving my hands at you and screaming, or like you perceive that I'm screaming, because I'm pretty loud most of the time, that is going to have an effect in our ability to negotiate, right? And so
Right.
and how you're feeling about whatever the issue is. But it's so important to be able to engage with the tools to bridge that divide, to be able to have that diversity of thought in our conversations, in our solutions. And
Love
so
it.
it is the primary ingredient.
Yeah, no, thank you. And with it, I'm going to continue a little bit here. As you know, we talked about the audience that we have. Can you please share a couple of pieces of advice, specifically for the young professionals? Based on your experience on the Hill, off the Hill, public, private sector, now as an entrepreneur, what are some of the 2 pieces of advice you have for young professionals who have maybe been out of college for, let's say, 2 to 3 years?
Bring others with you.
Oh, I like that.
So we
Okay.
always tell, because we're younger or whatever, we're always being told to find mentors, to find networks, to find others to help us along. But even if you feel that you don't have power yet, you should, as much as you can, strive to bring others with you.
I like that.
So whether you're the staff assistant managing interns, or you're an intern yourself and there's another group of interns, or younger, we have younger high school students that come
True.
to the Hill all the time, bring them with you. Much of the network that I have now grew up after me, and now they all made it, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of value in that.
I like that.
So I think like that primarily for me, and then keep growing, keep learning, invest in yourself, find the right rooms to get the information, to get the knowledge and the skills that you need to make it.
No, I appreciate that. I've told, usually it ends up being more with college students, but a couple times I've caught myself saying something similar to what you just shared, in that elevators have a maximum number of people, so why not bring other people with you in that elevator to the top of the building and celebrate together. You know, this idea that we just have to go one at a time. You know, we're like, I make it there, you struggle so much to get there, and then you kind of forget that somebody helped you along the way, or a lot of somebody's helped you along the way. And so it's never too early to start helping somebody else. So I love that. Thank you. So my last question is, what was your favorite class in college, undergrad or grad, and why?
Undergrad geology, and I think it just gave me like a space to disconnect from all the other stuff.
Geology. Okay, I would have never guessed that.
Geology.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I still do it. There's obviously, we're learning all the time. We're in a lot of these spaces all the time. We're constantly thinking. My mental health is like to do things that are completely unrelated.
That's good.
And that is so important for balance.
Okay.
And so for me, you know, like understanding volcanic activity and tectonic, you know, plate tectonics.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like intense to me.
I still...
Wow.
I still love those documentaries.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Laura. Very much appreciate it. Thank you for walking on the purple line with us. And we are cheering you on. And Katch Skills. I've been telling students that you have a resume, you have a LinkedIn profile, and now you have your Katch Skills profile. So thanks again, Laura.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to The Purple Line. Follow us on social media at the CHLI at THECHLI. Thank you for joining us on The Purple Line.